This is Break It Down to the T, where we don't just review films, we diagnose them. Every character you've ever watched on screen, they have a condition. And we're here to name it, unpack it, and show you exactly how it plays out in the story. Think of us as the shrinks Hollywood never hired. Welcome to the couch. And today we've got a patient on the couch who doesn't even know if she's real. Live action Mona. Except half of her isn't live action at all. She's animated, she's comped in, she's a digital double floating around a green screen pretending to be an ocean. This is a movie having a full-blown identity crisis in real time. Depersonalization derealization disorder. The clinical thing where you look at your own hands and go, wait, is this me? Is any of this actually happening? Because that's what watching this movie feels like. Not metaphorically, structurally. Quick 2-line version for anyone walking in cold. 10 years after the original, Disney remade Moana in live action. And by live action, they mean Catherine Laga'aia and Dwayne Johnson standing in front of a screen while a computer does most of the actual acting around them. Same story, Wayfinder Girl, Cocky Demigod, Stolen Heart of Te Fiti, Coconut Pirates, the whole tour. Here's what we're getting into over the next 15 minutes or so. We're diagnosing the movie itself first, because something is wrong with its sense of self before we even get to the characters. Then we're putting Maui on the couch, because Dwayne Johnson, playing Dwayne Johnson's own cartoon character, should not be this hollow, and there's a reason for that. Then we're talking about Moana and Gramma Tala, because that relationship is the only pulse this thing has. And then the verdict, which, spoiler, involves the word cynicism a lot. Okay, so let's start with the movie's identity crisis, because I think this is actually the most interesting thing here, more interesting than anything happening in the plot. Critics keep circling the same complaint without naming it. One review straight up said calling this movie live action feels like a misnomer since roughly 2/3 of it is animated, with the practical footage just actors comped into digital environments. Even the ocean sequences use digital doubles standing in for the real actors. So think about what that actually means psychologically, not just technically. You've got a film that was marketed on the premise of realness. Look, real people, real sets, real emotion. This time it's tangible. And then it delivers the opposite. It delivers a simulation of realness, a body double wearing your face. That is depersonalization in a nutshell. It's the sensation of being present in your own life, but experiencing it like you're watching it from outside your body, like the world has a thin plastic film over it. One critic even flagged a moment where a character calls a green screen soundstage a sacred place, like the movie is winking at its own fakeness and just moving on. That's not a filmmaking choice. That's a symptom. Empire. And this is where it gets interesting, because a lot of the reviews are basically describing dissociation without using the word. One outlet called the whole thing somnambulant, sleepwalking. Another said it's neither alive nor particularly propulsive. Alyssa Wilkinson's headline for The Times literally says the movie doesn't go far, which, come on, that's begging to be read as a diagnosis. A movie about breaking past your reef, past the edge of what you know, past the safe boundary, and the movie itself can't break past its own boundary. It's agoraphobic about its own premise. It's terrified of being new. It stays in the reef. It just restages the reef with better lighting. There's also this framing going around. Someone compared it to Gus Van Sant's Psycho remake, a shot-for-shot imitation, purely an exercise in mimicry with nothing added. And that's the thing about dissociative states, right? You go through the motions of your own life perfectly. You say the right words, you hit the right beats, but there's no one home doing the feeling. That's this movie. It hits every narrative beat from the original on what one review called a 1-to-1 level. Every beat. Precisely placed. And still, according to multiple critics, there's no authorial voice detectable anywhere in it. So that's patient number 1. The movie itself, presenting with a full dissociative episode, going through its own choreography while reporting no felt sense of being present in the room. Now let's get to Maui, because this one actually breaks my heart a little, not gonna lie. Dwayne Johnson, playing the character he originally voiced, should be the easiest layup in cinema history. He IS that character. The 2016 Maui was already built as a stylized version of him, so this should have been him just showing up as himself with abs. Instead, what we got was, and I'm using other people's words here because they nailed it, oddly catatonic. One review said he left his usual charm behind in the voice booth, like his real body showed up, but he forgot to bring the personality that made the character work in the first place. Catatonic is a real clinical presentation, by the way, not just a vibe description. It's when someone is physically present, sometimes even moving, but there's a flatness, a disconnection between the body and the animating spark behind it. And that's basically describing an actor performing an out-of-body experience while being fully in his own body. The irony is insane if you sit with it. Maui is a shapeshifter. The whole mythology of the character is about being more than one thing: fluid, dynamic, showing off. And the live-action version of him is described by multiple critics as flat, lackluster, like an AI's guess at what the character should feel like. One reviewer flat out said watching him felt like an AI interpretation of the character, uncanny in his own bodysuit and wig. So here's my read. Maui isn't just badly performed. He's performing the exact psychological state the whole movie is stuck in. He's the human embodiment of the derealization thing we just diagnosed the film with. A larger-than-life character who, in this version, can't access his own largeness. Imagine going to therapy and your therapist telling you, you're not depressed. You're just performing a flawless imitation of yourself with none of the original animating force behind it. That's Maui in 2026. That's rough. Meanwhile, right next to him, we've got Catherine Laga'aia doing the exact opposite thing. Almost every single review, and I mean almost unanimously, singles her out as the one actually alive person in the movie. One critic called her the film's sole source of actual life. Another said her passion breaks through an otherwise somnambulant runtime. She's matching Ollie Cravalho's vocal work from the original while still bringing her own texture to it, and by most accounts nailing How Far I'll Go so hard that it single-handedly justifies the whole musical sequence existing. And this is the part that's actually kind of touching if you let it be. The emotional core of this whole enterprise isn't the ocean. It's not the demigod. It's the relationship between Moana and her grandmother, Tala, played by Raina Owen. Multiple reviewers point to their scenes together as the actual heart of the movie, more moving even than the equivalent moments in the animated films. Tala's whole arc is this elder rebel who's been quietly, gently defying the tribe's fear of the unknown her whole life. And she's the one who hands Moana permission to go past the reef. And then she dies and comes back as a guiding spirit in the form of a stingray. Which, if you know anything about grief, psychology is basically the fantasy version of what we all wish happened when we lose someone who shaped us. The person doesn't vanish, they just change form and keep nudging you forward. So what we've actually got, if you zoom all the way out, is a movie diagnosed with dissociation, starring a demigod diagnosed with catatonic flatness, anchored by one performance that's fighting like hell against all of it, just to feel like a real human moment. Laga'aia and Owen are basically doing trauma-informed care on a film that doesn't want to heal. Let's talk about the why though, because I think the why is actually the most damning diagnosis of all. This isn't some decades-old cartoon getting a nostalgic dust-off. Moana the animated film came out in 2016. Moana 2 came out in 2024. We are talking about a live-action remake of a movie that is functionally still a toddler. One critic pointed out that the source material here is younger than most people's phone contracts, with the sequel only 2 years old at release. Several outlets used the exact word cynical to describe the decision, one going as far as calling it a craven cash grab in the headline itself. And look, from a clinical angle, if depersonalization is about losing your sense of self, cynicism is sort of the caretaker's version of the same collapse. It's what happens when an institution stops believing its own values are real and just starts going through motions for reward. Disney's messaging in this exact story is just be yourself, chart your own path, don't blindly follow tradition. And the making of the movie is the tradition. It's the safest, least self-actualized choice a studio can make, remaking something almost nobody was clamoring to see remade, 10 years after the fact, mostly because live-action remakes print money. One review pointed out how bleak it is that a movie literally about resisting the pull of this is just how we've always done it was it self-made, because that's just how Disney's always doing it now. The box office, for what it's worth, kind of agrees with the vibes here too. Analysts were projecting a global opening around 130 million, which would have made it the lowest ever domestic opening weekend for a Disney live-action title, and even that number got walked back further after a soft Friday. Rotten Tomatoes critics landed it around a third fresh. Audiences liked it more than critics did, for what that's worth. A lot of family reviews calling it a fun watch for the kids. But critically, this thing is underwater in a way the animated Moana never was. So here's the verdict from the couch. This movie isn't a villain. It's not malicious. It's not even incompetent exactly. Laga'aia proves the bones are still good. Tala and Moana's dynamic proves the emotional architecture of the story still works when someone actually inhabits it. But the film as a whole is a patient who showed up to their own life event wearing a rented version of their own face, going through the motions of a story about self-discovery while being fundamentally unable to discover anything new about itself. Maui is catatonic. The visuals are dissociated from the concept of liveness. And the whole project exists because a company got scared of an empty release calendar slot, not because anyone had something new to say about a girl who sails past the edge of the map, which, honestly, is the saddest kind of case we get on this couch. Not a disorder born out of trauma, a disorder born out of not needing to try. And I keep coming back to this one detail because it's such a perfect symptom of the whole thing. A character in this movie calls a literal green screen soundstage a sacred place, out loud, in dialogue, and nobody in the edit caught how that reads. That's not a filmmaking accident. That's the movie confessing on the couch without realizing it's confessing. Like a patient who insists everything's fine while their hands are shaking the entire session. You don't get a line like that unless the seams of the production are showing so hard that even the script starts apologizing for them. And here's the thing about depersonalization as a clinical picture. It's rarely permanent damage. It's usually a response. The mind pulling back from something it can't process in real time, putting a pane of glass between you and the moment so it hurts less. So if we're being fair to this movie, and I do try to be fair even to my problem patients, maybe the derealization isn't the disorder itself. Maybe it's the defense mechanism. A studio churning out its 9th or 10th remake in a row, knowing full well nobody asked for this one, distances itself from its own material because getting emotionally invested in something you already know is hollow is its own kind of psychological risk. You protect yourself by not fully showing up. The film is dissociating because showing up all the way Laga'aia does, the way Owen does in every scene with her, means actually being vulnerable to the question of whether this was worth making at all. And some part of this production, consciously or not, did not want to sit with that answer. That's what makes Maui's Flatness Land so different once you see it that way. He's not just badly directed. He's the load-bearing metaphor for a movie protecting itself from its own premise. A shapeshifter who, this time around, can't shift into anything. Because shifting requires risk, and risk requires actually caring what the audience thinks when you commit to a bit. Johnson nails the choreography of You're Welcome beat for beat, and still comes out the other side described as lackluster. Because nailing choreography was never the diagnosis anyone needed here. The diagnosis was always about whether there was a person behind the performance willing to be seen trying. And maybe that's the real tragedy buried under the cynicism talk. It's not that Disney doesn't know how to make this movie work. Laga'aia and Owen prove the emotional wiring is all still there, fully intact, ready to fire. It's that somewhere between the green light and the green screen, this specific version of the story stopped believing it needed to earn its own existence. Once you stop believing that, no amount of CG water or reused Lin-Manuel Miranda songs fixes it, because the thing that's broken was never technical. It was motivational. A movie can survive bad reviews. It has a much harder time surviving its own indifference to the question of why it's here. Alright, that's the file on live action Moana, closed for now. If you've seen it, tell me down in the comments, was Laga'aia carrying this whole thing on her back for you too? Or did the uncanny valley get you before she even got the chance? Hit subscribe if you want more films put on the couch. We've got another patient waiting next week. This has been Break It Down to the T. Stay curious about what's really going on beneath the surface. See you on the couch.